Just like
Oh, we're live.
we are live. Don't surprise me like that, Dallas. I never expect to be live, and then all of a sudden, bam.
We tried to throw some
Live.
extra seriousness in there with the thumbnail.
I got to tell you something that happened on Sunday.
Oh, what's that?
So a minute into last Sunday night's live, right? We're doing it in the backyard. Okay.
Okay.
I roll a cigarette. How many times have I rolled a cigarette on lives?
Probably 100.
At least, right?
Yeah.
At least. I got flagged.
You got flagged?
Inappropriate content.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
By
Because I
Googling?
rolled a cigarette. I guess they thought it was a joint. And I explained to them, no, it's a cigarette. But they didn't care. Demonetized and on that video and the whole bit.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So now when I want to roll a cigarette, I have to turn away, right? All right. So let's greet everybody.
Yeah, I see 2 hacks to see.
Man, I see a lot of people in here.
Yeah,
Man, they
they're
just
blowing it.
piled right in.
Bill
It's like
McKiska,
an attack.
George
Yes.
Bonnie,
Dickie Farley, Pro Charge Ballpark, Union Motorsports. What's going on? Andy. Josh H. 2 hacks. 2 hacks. What's happening, brother? I mean, Wendy English, and she's already retracted a message. Good girl. George Bonnie, we said hello. You're not first. James Fife, Terrence Seymour, Fubar, the hacks. We're all
We're totally safe now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ford LTD 1976. CL, hello from Maine. Rainy Day Auto, Dickie Farley, Raining Sun 6. Dude, we got to change your name a little bit. It's just
You need to make it longer.
you can spend half the live just saying his name.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
NSB Customs, Slant Daily Garage. Oh, what's going on, Shane? Donald Davidson, Rocky Myers, Joe K, Peter Kovacs, Perpetual Projects. I love that name. Irish Outlaw Garage, Roger Bagwell.
You know the name I always wanted to put up there? 'Cause I was
Subscribe.
going to make a channel that was named, oh my God. I can't even think now. I just lost my train of thought. Damn it. All right. Well, we'll move on.
Oh, no, that's all right. You know what? You notice you have the focus of 1,000 burning monks.
Oh, is that what it is?
And yeah, and so it's like
One monk just died because I lost all focus. So I'm at 999 now.
well, Josh H unsubscribed.
Sweet.
Yes. Franco, what's happening, Franco? Matt S. Terrence Seymour. So what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about something different tonight. Let's talk about
Terrence Seymour said I had a stroke.
Oh, cool. You were right.
I'm totally fine. At least my right and left sides are working.
Oh,
Maybe-
I thought he had a stroke.
No. I
Oh,
think he's
no.
talking about me.
No, we try not to stroke out around here. Zero, what's happening, Zero? Okay, you like the science project. I thought that was pretty neat. Did you see the video?
I did. Where you got those rings unstuck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good video.
Vinegar.
Yeah.
Vinegar.
Who knew?
It kicked ass.
Well, you know what? One thing I always wanted to try, and you didn't have it there, and it was probably buried within the comments. You remember the old comment about putting Coca-Cola in there?
Yep. A few
I
people
wanted to
commented
try
on it.
that one.
I don't know if it works with the new Coke. I think that's the old formulation. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
like the one trying to get you demonetized formula?
The old, I'm not sure about that. Bruton Smith passed away. Did you know Bruton?
No, but it sounds familiar.
He's a track owner. Let's see. I got a passing grade on the science project. Thank you, man. Let's see. What were we just talking about?
You were talking about the science project.
Yes.
And I said I wanted to use Coke.
Right, and I was going to ask if anybody knows if that still holds true with the Coca-Cola that they sell today. Does it still have that?
Well, it's got some kind of acid in it, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
phosphoric acid.
Oh, I tell you what I did this week that was dumb. All right. You know, what is the acid that you use to etch concrete, to clean concrete? Muriatic acid.
Yeah.
I used muriatic acid to pull some zinc off some bolts so I could weld them, right? And I had the stuff open in my garage, and I put it in a little pool, and I threw the bolts in there, and I walked away, and about an hour later, about an hour later, I came back out, and the bolts were all clean, and had all the zinc gone, right? The fumes from that collected in my garage, and anything that was bare metal was like flash rusted, right? And I mean like flash rusted. There was some serious rust on stuff I had never even seen on it before.
Kathy's there, and she's unsubscribing.
Oh no, you're gonna lose the shop.
code improvement saying lost a magnesium concrete floor to a bucket of acid once. Somebody was just asking, let's see. John, thank you, John Robertson. I appreciate that.
Yes. Project.
Gas and oil, what's the first thing to look for? If you got a mechanical fuel pump, first place. Right? Sometimes mechanical fuel pump, the diaphragm will rupture and it'll pump gas into the crankcase.
The other thing is the combination for your carburetor is too rich, right? Like, or your choke is stuck on, because it'll gas down the oil that way too, but it'll also frag the rings.
Man, that's how's Bottle Rocket coming along. Today's the first day I actually worked on that car.
Did you work on Bottle Rocket?
I did work on Bottle Rocket.
Did your fingers burn off?
No,
Touching Bottle Rocket.
my fingers are still good. Let's see, Randy Crabtree. Been watching your points distributor videos to refresh my memory. Putting some 85 C20. I've got Austin. Austin is building me a distributor.
Is he?
For Bottle Rocket, yeah. Because I have a Mallory on there, an Axle rather, and I want to go with a Mallory because I have Mallory's on my other engines.
I thought you had to do a point Mallory on Bottle Rocket.
It's an Axle.
Okay.
It's an Axle, but long stories with that particular distributor. I'm not crazy about it, so he's doing me a distributor right now.
Okay. Did I tell you the super stock motor that I'm building is for Southeast Gasser's super stock class, right?
Okay.
They require that they don't want you running any HEIs or any kind of electronic ignition that doesn't have a box that you can't hide, right?
Right.
Well, I'm like, well, damn, there's only 2 distributors made for a Buick. There's technically 3 that are aftermarket. One is a Magneto. Good luck finding one of them, right? The other one was is the Holley Hyperspark that they make now for their EFI stuff. And then the last one is a dual point Mallory. Well, I actually found one for a Buick small block, and I bought it.
Great,
right?
yeah.
I don't really, and this is something I'm going to let this out of the bag. I'm not a points guy. I grew up with electronic ignitions, right?
Leave it to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So Austin, Junkyard Jet, has a Mallory distributor fetish. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he loves these things. Like
Okay.
he loves them. And that's why it says here, you know what? Here, build me a distributor, right? That's all money needed in it, right?
Uh-huh.
So he's taking care of that. But no, between him and me, and especially if you got a Mallory,
It's a Mallory dual point.
we got you covered.
Sweet.
We got you covered.
Well, I found a black cap for it because it's got to have a black cap and black wires. So
Okay.
I went with an Excel. I did the Excel super stock wires that are black,
Okay.
right? And so
You can't use yellow plug wires?
no,
Dude, I do not want to be involved in any type of engine build where you can't have yellow plug wires.
I have some yellow ones, but they're about like 50 years old.
I have often, well, that's all right. They're solid. They're solid core. They're fine.
The silicone is like pretty brittle.
I have often speculated. You know those moments when you lay in bed at night and you're like, oh, and you get into deep thought, right? You know.
Right.
I've often speculated that I only build engines because they're the best place to display the yellow plug wires.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe you really have just like a maybe like a noodle fetish, like spaghetti noodle fetish.
I do have a noodle. I have a thing for noodles.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. So I take it that when they started doing top fuel motors with 2 spark plugs and you had the orange auto lights on there, were you like all kind of giddy about that?
No, we were using Blue Max.
Blue Max, yeah, the blue ones. Okay.
Those are the only Blue Max 8mm, and then they went to the black ones, and that was when I quit top fuel racing. It was a black plug wires. I'm done, man. I'm done. I'm done. Let's see, Joe K. I have an LT1. You can't even see the plug wires.
Yeah.
I have no use for that.
Yeah. Same with the distributor. You can't even see that either.
Right. OptiSpark.
I know. What a horrible place.
And I'm talking about distributors and Bottle Rocket and all of that. But one of the main reasons why I'm going to the Mallory is because DD Speed Shop was down here. They came from Power Tour, right?
Oh, right.
They left their truck here, and then they took their 57 on Power Tour.
Right.
So he gifted me a Mallory Unilite which I don't want the Unilite, but
Aren't they the
body
same
is-
body as
yeah, it's the same body,
a
right?
dual point? Okay, yeah, because the Unilites, they were like failure prone.
And a vintage Moroso tack drive distributor.
Oh, that's
On
sweet.
Tack drive setup.
Yeah, mechanical.
Mechanical, yeah. So that has to go in Bottle Rocket. And oh, we got people walking in here. Oh no!
Oh God,
It's the Junkyard Jet crew.
it's me. And
Yeah.
Greg.
Hey, what's happening, man?
What's this language?
We're live.
Sorry.
Yes. No, that's okay. Would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
On the front seat of Bottle Rocket is the tack drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you bring that to
The
me?
thing I fell asleep on.
The thing you used as a pillow last night. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll bring it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm here.
Let's see.
Yeah, pudding. Everybody always says that when he shows up. Oh, Fubar's putting up the link to the AHRA. Did I tell you? I hate hackers. Someone hacked my freaking email, and it like literally is done. Right? I have to move the whole entire email from somewhere to a new email server.
And you see, and that is why I don't even look at emails. It's just like nothing to do with it. Kinsley's Taste-X Miracle, thank you for the super chat. Thoughts on a 408 versus a 360 for reliability torque? Honestly, man, I would use the 360. I would just, for simplicity's sake, for like longevity's sake, for like no question mark sake, I would just, you know what I'm saying? Unless you have a really good reason, you know, you can.
I've tried that. That's what my white Ford is.
Yeah.
And it is just a fucking nightmare. It really is. I have more time invested in getting that thing running right than I originally had a 351 Windsor and I re-ringed it and put it in there.
Right.
It ran for 2 years. I never had to even change the plugs in it, right? 393, I work on it consistently. It is the bane of my existence. I would never do a stroker again.
It's a little different. You're having a problem with the external stuff. You're not having problems with the internal parts.
But if I was going to build a stroker motor for torque, I really think a 318 with that 4-inch stroke crank would be the ticket, right? Because it would still put you less than 400 cubes. It would get decent mileage. It's like the best of both worlds. It had good torque all around. Has anybody ever done a 4-inch stroke 318?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you done one?
I haven't, but it's very common actually.
Really?
390.
Because it's 391 or 391 board, right?
Yeah, 3.91.
So if you put a 4-inch stroke, it comes up 391 cubes.
But yeah, man, I would for simplicity's sake, I
Whoa.
would just go with
You even got the tack, huh?
Well, you know, it
Oh,
was all connected, so.
Yeah.
Did you get the distributor and tack?
Yeah, he gave me the distributor type, but we're not going to use the distributor. Here, bring it over.
All right.
That's Andy, you're going to love this. Look at this.
Tack drive.
Look at that thing.
Here, let me give it a whirl.
It's got the telltale, right? You got a telltale? No, other way.
Other way?
Yeah.
I was already spinning it that way. It wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, it's jumping.
Oh, is it?
And it's my telltale. So yeah, this was a gift from Danny and Danielle from
DD
DD Speed Shop.
or DD.
Yeah, Andy, I know, right? It's like the screw the rest of the car. This is like the whole thing right here.
Well, now you got to spin the crap out of it to utilize.
I know. I gotta break it. I gotta spin it till the rods stick out, just to like see that thing with the telltale up there.
I need to hit up Andy anyway. I didn't need to get carburetor jetting set up. Idea.
Yeah, Zero. They were here, man. They are the absolute coolest people you will ever meet. Ever. If you guys, none of you, if you don't know DD Speed Shop, it's Danny and Danielle. They're up in Canada, Canadistan. They're good friends with Zip Ties, Peg from Zip Ties and Buyers Place. And they are just the most awesome people. He works out of his 2-car garage, right? He builds cars from the ground up in his 2-car garage, sections them, cuts them up, and just go over there and just subscribe. Just
Happy on Cycles is saying, had my Subaru lose ignition out of nowhere. Then it came right back. Checked the ohms and the ground, no dice, couldn't recreate the problem. Ideas. Yeah, I've had a problem like that with a Power Stroke Ford.
okay.
The EFI or the fuel injection on the Power Stroke diesel relies heavily on that crank sensor, I think is what it is.
Okay.
that crank sensor did the same thing. The whole dang truck would shut off. About 10 minutes later, it'd start right back up. You'd drive it for another 20 miles, and all of a sudden it just shut off again. And that's exactly what was going on with that crank sensor.
Then it came right back. Check the ohms on the ground. No, that could recreate the problem. I mean, yeah, what you're saying is probably about right.
Crank or cam sensor.
Yeah, I've had similar intermittent problems with bad alternators. It'll overcharge intermittently, and then it'll knock stuff out. Let's see. What are they doing in there?
I don't know. I think they both went in the bathroom at the same time.
Okay, this one's for you, man. I got a 62 Buick Skylark with a 215. Would it be better running a 17-inch flex fan or a 12-inch or a 12-inch and 10-inch electric fans? I've been doing a lot of parades during the summer.
Oh, well, okay, I hate to burst your bubble. I wouldn't do any of them. If you're wanting to idle in traffic, there's probably nothing better than a big old clutch fan.
Yeah, there's really nothing better than it. He's exactly right. He's exactly right. A good fresh clutch fan.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to buy an aftermarket clutch to put on that thing, because they got some really bitchin' clutches you can put on just a stock fan. I wouldn't do the flex fan. Is not a good, and I know they came with a solid mounted 4-blade fan, I think, but see if you can find a later Buick 350 or something that you can rob the fan off of. But it'll probably work pretty good, because you can get a decent size clutch fan from GM. They were probably what, 15-inch, 14-inch.
They were I don't know the size, but they were big.
Yeah. And, if you get one with AC, it'll be a 7-blader, I think, or 5-blade.
Vince W. Is it worth being a mechanic as a profession with all the tools that are required to buy?
Ooh, what are you wanting to work on is the question. Because if you're working on newer cars, it's not worth it to be a mechanic working at a dealership.
No.
There's a lot of guys I know that were dealership mechanics that have bailed, right?
I think my answer to that is that I'm not being an asshole. I swear to God, well, I mean, I can't help it. It's in my DNA. But I'm not deliberately trying to be an asshole here, right? Honestly, Vince, if you have to ask that question, then the answer is no. Does that make any sense? Like, it's the kind of thing where you're either compelled to do it and you have no choice because you're a mechanic by nature and you have to work on stuff, or if it's something you got to take on as a job and you've got to question that. No, man, it's a miserable job. It's a terrible way to make a living. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how bad it is. But if you're driven to do it, then go ahead and do it. But if you have to ask that question, no, the answer is no, man. Find another way.
That's a tough gig these days too.
It's
Mechanic,
miserable.
because you got, man, the tools required for some of these jobs. You're literally going to have a couple $100 in the tools, and you're going to try to make it up off that one job or two jobs, right? Man, and with the way stuff is going.
Creekside Garage, I want an 1/8 mile drag car with 456 gears. I will be doing quarter mile. Should I try a few runs with 456s, just swap them? 456 is a very mild, for an 1/8 mile, 456 is a very mild gear. 456 is a quarter mile gear, really.
Yeah, and if you really want to know, if you want God's honest truth, want to know, take it out to the 1/8 mile track, and then because it's going to give you a time slip. It's going to tell you how fast you're going, right? That's the key thing. So you want to know how fast you're going, and then the RPM of the engine across the stripe, okay? And then you can actually sit down and do the math based on, because if it's a converter car, let's say it's on automatic, there's going to be a percentage of slip at the torque converter, right? But everything else is essentially, when you're in high gear, it's 1-to-1, right? So if you're turning 7,000 RPM, your drive shaft should be turning 7,000 RPM, and then you divide that by 4.56, right? And that's going to give you the axle speed, the rate of rotation for the axle. And then you take your tire size, which is in diameter, however many inches, and you can figure out how many inches are in a mile. And that'll tell you, you can take your mile an hour and work it backwards that way. But that's what you need to know.
What Zero was just saying here. modern dealership mechanic, technician. It's all cookbook steps 1 through etc. No thought or diagnosis at all. Yeah, but bro, forget about plugging in and reading codes and whatnot. You still have to get in there and repair this stuff. So no matter how you look at it, you still got to be ripping apart doors and dashboards and dropping gas tanks and all of this other stuff, heater cores. Oh, please, it's such a nightmare. Such a nightmare. Bad. Any job you like is a good job. Agreed.
Well, then it's no longer a job anymore. If you like it, you enjoy it, right?
I think if you're successful, people who are really successful, it used to be that you could be a mechanic, right? Like you go back to the old days of just like, the two-bay gas station, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like regular neighborhood service mechanic working on cars in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? You didn't really have to devote your life to it. You know what I mean? It could be a 9 to 5 job. You know what I mean? And you pay the bills and everything. It's not like that. It's not like that anymore. You can't just approach it. You can't be successful and approach it as just a job. It has to be your way of life, period.
So Chris Freemaster says the same thing that my philosophy that I go by: never turn a hobby into a profession. And the reason why I say that is that if you enjoy doing it as a hobby, when you start doing it as a profession, you won't want to do it as a hobby any longer, right? You'll get so burned out on it.
Papillon Cycles. I remember when Crank Trigger was new in my family's garage in the mid-'80s. We used to have to test drive sometimes for a day or two. We called it morning sickness. That's one of the reasons why I got out of repair work, just because I spent more time driving cars to get them to act up than I spent actually working on them. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to sit driving a car all day. I want to fix this thing and move on to the next. So yeah, that was a problem. By the way, on the quickie diagnosis on those early magnetic pickup ignitions, the quick diagnosis for those was as soon as it starts to buck or act up or get weird or anything like that, turn the headlights on. And if it smooths out when you turn the headlights on, you can go right to the sensor.
You know, what's funny is you remember the GM when they first started doing like the electronic quadro jets, like the computer controlled quadro jets. You remember that, right? Well, you remember that analysis machine that you used to be able to plug in?
I have one.
And it had literally like a O-scope on it and all kinds of stuff, right? And it had so much analysis information on there for those things. It was amazing. But gosh, you had to be an absolute freaking rocket scientist to follow
along. Boss Racing is saying Toyota was great to work for, great cars, great people. I've always had respect for Toyotas. I miss the early Toyotas, like when they first started bringing them over in the 70s, the middle 70s, early 70s, mid 70s. I miss those cars. Did you ever work on those old Toyotas?
No.
They were the simplest, easiest cars in the world to diagnose, to work on. Everything on those cars was either a 10 millimeter, a 12 meter, or a 14 millimeter, and a Phillips screwdriver. Like you could literally like rebuild one of those cars with tools that you carry around in your hand. You know what I'm saying? They were fantastic.
So John Schlepper saying thanks, but there's not enough room in his 62 Buick Skylark for a clutch fan. Now, okay,
you sure about that?
Yeah, you were going to put a 17-inch flex fan in there. He might be talking lengthwise in the front, right? So
yeah, from the water pump to the
right. All right. If that's the case, say you don't have enough room, the best thing to do is that car did not come factory with a fan shroud. There is no shroud on that car, right? They literally just had a metal bar that said "careful fan" or "caution fan."
A little ledge over the top of the radiator.
Right, and then it had a fan. So if you can actually make a shroud, which you can make a shroud fairly simply out of just some sheet metal, I would make a shroud, and it's probably going to improve everything that you have by tenfold. Right, that's where all the later cars end up going. They all put a shroud on them, and then later from the shroud they end up going to electric fans and stuff like that. But I would not run an electric fan on your 62 Buick just for the simple fact that one, the alternator only puts out maybe 60 amps, maybe, right, if you're lucky. Then it's got a external voltage regulator, and if you put too much electric fan on there, you won't have electric anything else. Right? You won't have turn signals, you won't have lights because the thing, it can only put out 60 amps. So The best thing to do if you want to do electric fans, go find a later alternator off of a Ford, like the one that used to be the ticket was a '96 Thunderbird with a 3.8 that had all the bells and whistles. So you're looking at like an XLT or something like that, whatever is the
Just go
high-end
to
thing.
a one-wire alternator.
You can do that too, because you can get 100 amp on those suckers and remove your external voltage regulator. But that's something you're going to have to do if you just want an electric fan. But otherwise, I would just make a shroud. You're going to find that a shroud is not that hard to build.
Franco's saying the 22R is a real Hemi. They actually are. Those engines, I remember the first time I took one of those apart, and I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And it was an early Hemi. And then Chrysler, actually, not Chrysler, Toyota, they, now I forgot which one that it was. Is it the Dodge Hemi, the Dodge Red Ram Hemi? Somebody in here knows better than I do, right? But they duplicated one of the early Chrysler Hemis, and they used it in Toyota limousines that they sold to their domestic market.
So it's a V8?
It's a V8, and it's like an exact copy of it might be the Dodge Red Ram. I'm not sure.
The small cubic inch ones, the 270 something, whatever they are.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
241, 27. Yeah, I know somebody. I know somebody will. What? Those 22Rs too, man. They had the perfect valve clatter, right? You remember those?
Oh, they have solid lifter cam?
The early ones had solid lifter cam, overhead cams with adjustable rockers,
Huh.
and it was like 8 and 10 thousandths lash on those things.
Huh. 8 and 10 thousandths is pretty tight.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you're running what, 20s?
Yeah, but you got to
20 and
remember
24.
everything is all tiny. Everything's all tiny and light. The Little Red Ram Hemi. If you're on a Fab race mod, repeat. The Little Red Ram Hemi is a piece of correctly. They're good RPM motors. Dean Stevenson saying the Toyota Century V8, 4-liter, 2T, 1.6 liters. Rude Mopar dude says this shroud talk blows. He doesn't want to talk about shrouds.
No one wants to talk that. Is there some kind of inside joke with shrouds?
Be the shroud. I went off one night. On my dislike for shrouds, fan shrouds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't chime in when I was saying put a fan shroud on that thing.
Because I don't want to step on your. I mean,
Well, he's doing parades,
personal.
right? That's where it's barely moving.
No, to me, it's a personal thing. You know, I know that there are times and places for fan shrouds, but they're not in my world.
Not in Tony's
Not in
world.
my world. No, there are no fan shrouds in my world. As I said that night, if it means that I can only drive 700 feet before it overheats and I got to pull over it for an hour and let it
You
sit,
leave the shroud off.
still no shroud. Still no shroud.
Ruckworth says you're an anti-shroudite.
I am a very anti-shroudite. Zero saying, yes, they work. They do. No, I don't run one. Never. Anything that complicates me getting at the working, devices on my engines, you know what I mean? It's like, no, just no.
Yeah, well, you saw that. Remember that 63 Buick that we started up at my house?
Yeah.
You saw how much room there is in front of that motor.
Yeah.
It's like an inch.
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, no need for a shroud there. There are some cars, like you remember the old Pontiac Grand Prix, like the 70, 71.
Oh, yeah.
The
You
Monte
needed
Carlos.
a wind tunnel.
You need a wind tunnel, yeah. The shroud is this long. Yeah, okay, you're not going to get by without that. You know what I mean? Uh, 426. I mean, plans. May try to take out this Saturday night. I just got to see how the week rolls, how the rest of the week rolls. But yeah,
It's
possibly we
supposed to
take
be
out Saturday
100
night.
degrees the rest of this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if it's 100 degrees, I ain't going out with it. It's that simple.
It was hot enough today.
John M. 100 degrees Fahrenheit, still no shroud. No, no shroud. Let's see.
Eric Johnson says, I made a shroud out of large cookie baking sheet or baking sheet.
They didn't have one for you, like you couldn't find a regular one? Zero saying I run a clutch fan and daily my 318 door traffic every day. Well, there's really no space, man. You know,
That's the problem for him, yeah. It doesn't have room for the clutch. Those old fans were literally like the width of a bowl, right? Because that's what was holding on the fan blade to the actual pump, water pump itself.
well, the Zero is using a fan clutch on the A body there, on the A body Mopar,
Mhm.
and that's a special fan clutch because there's so little space. It's like that Buick. There's so little space between the water pump and the radiator that the fan clutch on that is about an inch shorter than the one that they use on the B bodies.
Oh, really?
Now the bolt pattern isn't going to be too far off from the Buick.
And if you buy an aftermarket Flexolite, guess what? It's got that multi-bolt pattern on there.
Yeah.
So you
So-
could probably use one from an A body. I bet you there would be room for an A body one
To get me, yeah, I remember who was it with the
with the 62 Buick. But yeah, try an A body clutch fan from like an aftermarket one from Flexolite because it'll have the correct depth. It's just got a universal pattern on the actual flange where it bolts to the water pump, and you should be able to put that on there.
Dickie Furley saying, like, okay, I hate to tell you, but you just rolled a cigarette on the YouTube live again. I know, guys, YouTube sent it. That's it. Look, okay, it's not bad stuff. It's tobacco. Okay. Let's see.
Dizzy, as you said, use a flex fan with no clutch. That's what he has now. But he was wanting to know if he went to a 17-inch flex fan, would that help?
It might.
I'm a firm believer in the clutch fan. They do work well.
Mike Fredericks, hey Tony, can anyone drop by your shop to say hi? Is there a bad or a good time to do that? I'm a neurotic recluse. I mean, like literally, man. I'm serious. I'm like a neurotic recluse. I hide in here with the doors down and everything locked and everything.
Even
else.
when it's 100 degrees, he still does.
Yeah, it's like a very rare. I'll open it. Like I'll have the doors open if there are other guys here, and I can hide if somebody comes in. That's the truth.
Oh, the Screaming Simmons says he waited until Wednesday to tell you.
Then he unsubscribed.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe. Danny Boyd says he's been through the desert with a fan with no clutch.
I bet he has.
That's a song. He's been
Oh, I
through
know.
the
Like
desert.
from America.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the horse with no name. John Wilburn saying a bad time to drop by and see Tony is any day ending in Y. That's true.
No, not erotic. I'm neurotic. A neurotic recluse. I'm being completely. I mean, I could not possibly be more sincere than that. I really am a neurotic recluse. That's what I am.
Actually, I don't even know if that's actually the thing is neurotic recluse, but all right. So when Tony first got this shop, there has been a few guys that had dropped by, and it gets almost to like a rage point where you're like, hey, I'm trying to work here, right? What are you doing? I'm trying to work. And it's easier to say, hey, just let Tony be and do his thing. And otherwise, you will get the stinky end of the stick.
Yeah, I'm really bad, man. I'm in the wrong line of work. I'm honestly in the wrong line of work. I shouldn't be doing this.
Oh, Dizzy Easy likes my brake bleeding video I did. I had the world's greatest brake bleeder, man. I'm telling you, it's the best single person brake bleeder ever. It's just a mason jar with just take some rubber hose, stick it on the brake bleeder,
Right.
and at the bottom of the rubber hose, you put a fitting on the end that's brass, so it holds all of it down, and then you put brake fluid in the mason jar.
Yeah, and then you just pump it.
You just pump it, and then once you get it moving, Just take the top off, it'll gravity bleed, get all the air out, right?
See, what I do is I leave all the bleed screws closed, right? Fill the master cylinder, pump until there's pressure. Then I go to the furthest in the back, crack that open, let it gravity bleed until the bubbles stop.
Right.
Then I go back, pump, and do the front, and let that, and then once all the way around.
Huh.
And then just let everything gravity bleed.
Yeah, I was dumb enough. I got distracted while it was gravity bleeding, and I gravity bled the entire master cylinder into that mason jar. Ruckworth says, "How about Tony charges people for meet and greets?
Yeah, no.
$750 for 5 minutes and a picture."
Honestly, it's not even worth that to me. You could offer me $1,000. I'm just no.
I just think of last year at the Slanted Nationals, when Tony rolls into Slanted Nationals, everybody's there waiting to see him, right? He literally parks at the furthest parking spot at the whole track away from everybody, right? And I'm like, oh man, he's dead serious about being away from people.
Oh, you have no idea. And even that was too close. Even that was too close. The best place for me to have parked would have been a different drag strip.
That wasn't open. Yeah.
Ray, what are your thoughts on classic car dealerships? My thoughts is that I no.
I stay away from
No.
all dealerships.
I have yet to see a good deal, a good quality car come through a classic car dealership. The exact opposite is true in my experience. I mean, I can't speak for every car, every dealership, every situation, but in my experience, the worst of the worst cars that I've come across all originated at a classic car dealership.
Yeah, Aries saying that there's a really nice one. Carson, California had some nice cars, but what you find is, okay, so you have an idea of what one of those cars costs. Let's say you're looking at 13.5, okay, and you have that's going to be a fairly nice drivable car, right? You can jump in there, hit the key, and pretty much drive just about anywhere you want, and everything's going to work as it was from the factory. That same $13,500 car is going to be $25,000 at a classic car dealer. Is it really worth that kind of ass pain when you could literally sit on Marketplace and shop around and find your $13,500 car that has all that same stuff?
Fair brace my repeat. Come on now, we all realize that deep down Tony is just still not a huge people person. But you're wrong. You're wrong. You see, I'm the kind of person, like, if I'm at the supermarket, I start talking to whoever is next to me, right? I'm a very people person. I love people, but I don't like it when they know who I am, but I don't know who
when
they
they
are.
fanboy you.
Yeah. I just right, exactly. If I just meet somebody out of the blue and we're yapping, blah 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 blah. I'm a huge people person. I love people. I don't like it when they know who I am, but I don't know who they are. That's when I get weird. You know what I mean? And I get all like, you know what I mean?
Uncle Squirrel says he's a squirrel person.
Yeah, and also I don't like to talk about cars. I just don't like to talk about cars or anything like that. I like to talk about other things. You know what I mean? It's like I have enough with cars. Let's see.
Hank Hill is asking a good question there. A 67 318 in my 67 Satellite. I'd like to swap out my 2-barrel for a 4-barrel. I was told that it would actually have less power because of ports. Is this true? And what shouldn't I do?
No,
Your 2-barrel for 4-barrel swap, I would assume that the ports are going to be exactly the same size because the heads are generally the same.
Say that one more time.
The ports are going to be the same size because the heads are generally the same.
There is no
4-barrel
318.
Okay, so even if you got a 4-barrel intake for a 318, so that's an aftermarket intake then?
Yes, yeah.
All right, well then the ports are going to line up.
But there was a 4-barrel 273. You will make more power.
Oh, hypo, yeah.
Yeah, you will make more power, but
get better gas mileage.
It's not a huge improvement. It's not a huge improvement.
You do get better mileage though, generally, because the the two front barrels are generally smaller than the two barrels.
And the big thing with is the cams they put in those engines. Tiny cams. You know.
I can't believe there was never a 318 4-barrel. Really? Even after the Hypo 273?
There was a Marine 318 4-barrel, but never a automotive and truck use. There was no 318 4-barrel until 1986.
Really?
Yeah, it was a police thing, and they put the 360
Like
heads.
the Diplomats.
Yeah, on the Diplomats.
Okay. I never knew that they didn't do a 4-barrel on a 318. I never knew that.
Well, I said they did a Marine. They had actually a very nice low-profile single plane
Huh.
that they used on the Marine. But you see, the Marine doesn't have to pull from a get-go.
Right, they're already rolling.
Right.
Or they're already moving.
But the cam, it's not the ports and the heads, it's the cam. The cams are just so tiny in those engines, they just won't move that atmosphere. But you will pick up somewhat. Matt asked, E48 Police Street. Yeah, I know, I just said that. Mike Fredericks, I just want to hear a few of your old Cliff Gromer stories. That weenie. Is he still alive? Is he even still alive? Oh my God. John Wilburn is saying Austin is so opposite Tony that he autographed the Daddy's Money Garage sticker he sent me. Dallas is the opposite of me too. Dallas loves to talk about cars. You're all about it, man.
I can't talk about anything else. I really don't know anything else. I'm like totally a social moron when it comes to anything. You want to talk about parachutes? I don't know crap about it, right? You want to talk about flying kites? You want to talk about getting your kids on a bicycle and teaching them how to ride? I can't do any of it. I don't do it.
Yes, I enjoy conversations about psychology, philosophy, economics, history, all of that stuff. I don't want to talk about cars.
Yeah,
I talk about cars for a living.
I was always like the guy that whenever you weren't talking cars, I felt uncomfortable in the conversation.
David Unglam, Tony, did you ever meet Tommy Ivo? Yes, and I actually did a story on him for Superstock and Drag Illustrated back in '90. I don't know, sometime in the mid to late '90s. Tommy Ivo, I'm not stretching this one bit, right? Tommy Ivo is probably one of the most pleasant human beings I have ever encountered. I cannot say enough good about that guy. He's just awesome. And he had a reputation. He had a reputation for being a dick, but he's not. He's not. You know, I don't know if his side.
I never heard that he was a dick. I always actually heard he was conceited.
Conceited, well, same thing. And a practical joker.
That I have heard, and I heard he's actually really good, and there is no lines to be drawn on where he will end for a practical joke, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, Ivo is just an awesome person. He was one of the few people I really enjoyed spending some time around. Let's see. Raining Sun 6, didn't they offer a 318 thermal quad and some special model pickups? 318 thermal, no, the 4-barrel 318 and the thermal quad were two different eras. All of the 318 4-barrels had the Rochesters, quadrajets on them.
Oh yeah, it came in the 80s.
Yeah. Doug Nogn always wanted to meet Dick Landy. I heard he was a super guy, and he was. He was a nice guy.
I always wanted to meet the Grump, right? Like, was he grumpy? Was he literally grumpy?
Jenkins?
Yeah.
No. Here's the thing with Jenkins. I met Jenkins several times. Doing magazines. I was doing the magazines.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about Jenkins was he would appear to be ignoring you.
Okay.
Okay. So if you ask him a question, right, and you say, Bill, what do you think the weather's going to be tonight? Right? There'll be like silence, and he'll look away, right?
And
he'll mumble something, right?
Uh-huh.
And then he'll say, "There's like a 40% chance," and blah 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 blah, and then he changed the subject, okay? And what it was before he would give you an answer, if you ask him a question, before he give you an answer, He circumnavigated every little bit of that question to give you the most accurate answer he possibly could.
I don't doubt that.
So, and because of that, he came off as being, like grumpy, like don't bother him, don't talk to him. And it wasn't like that at all. He's actually a very friendly person. But his demeanor, his outward demeanor, because of the way he would pause and think. And,
People would take that as harsh.
yeah, people took it as harsh. And that's where he got the name grumpy from. Hank Hill, thank you so much for the super chat. I guess my question now is, would a bigger cam along with the carb sock give me the power I'm looking for? Yes. Look into a Hughes Whiplash cam. I have one on a 273. The 273 is Stubby's driving right now. I love that cam. Go to Hughes. I'm not sponsored by them. I pay for the stuff out of my pocket, same way you do. Hughes Performance, the Whiplash cam for the 318. Look up the specs on it. That is the cam to throw in there with a small runner, like an Edelrock Performer. Go with it, and you'll be very happy.
Look at the question right below, or the thing right below. Rider of a Pale Horse, Tony. I posted a steam engine Indy car in my group.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that was 1968, was it? What's the name of the group, Ryder? Grumpy was a genius. He certainly was. Grumpy was also the first Dodge boy. A lot of people don't realize that. He was 1964, 1960.
It's a Black Arrow car,
Yep.
right? And the one that I really thought would be neat to meet is like Smokey Yunick. He was always the perpetual thinker, right?
I never had the honor of meeting Smokey Yunick. But David, the way I see it is, if David Vizard is as close to as Smokey.
Oh,
Yunick
yeah.
is, and they were friends, so it's like, if it passed, David Vizard passed Smokey's sniff test and vice versa. So,
Danny Boyd's wanting you to check out the Grumpy power shifting his SS Camaro down the track with a cigar in his mouth.
Yep.
The camera in the passenger seat. That's the kind of crap that I feel should return.
Yeah, that was from the 1969 U.S. Nationals.
Billy the Kid Step, says Fart Master Flash.
What about him?
I don't know. Did you meet him?
No.
Well, you were in New York, right? Did you ever meet Brooklyn Heavy that ran all those Pro Stock cars? He would show up at the street races, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Pro Stock cars.
I was a kid. I was one of those people who was just hanging around, absorbing everything that was going on. So yeah, I mean, he was a celebrity.
Oh,
you know what
really?
I mean? So it's like, you knew who he was. Mafia.
In that video that they were talking about with Grumpy shifting that Camaro, I just like the timing that he's doing with his hand when he freaking bangs the gear, because he's actually counting them off from a certain point on the tack, I'm assuming.
Joe Brennan, any word on how Jim Bennett's family may be holding up? I truly like that guy.
I haven't heard anything from
I haven't heard anything.
And I know John Wilburn was actually in with a lot of the guys there at the shop, and he hasn't heard anything from any of them either.
Yeah, to me it was it's really weird the way just everything just like dead silence from that whole group from the time that he died. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's weird. There's definitely weirdness there. Okay, Zero's posting a link to Dick Landy's shift vid. Okay.
Nick Landy or Grumpy Jenkins?
Both. There's both of them.
Sweet. Oh, okay. Yeah, go check them out if you guys got a few minutes. That's some freaking awesome videos. Yeah, John and I were wondering if some of the guys from the shop were going to run that monkey bike that he bought. Because he bought a monkey bike maybe 2 weeks before he died.
Yeah.
And they were prepping it and getting it ready to go. And they were talking about how much fun the thing was to ride on the street. Oh, Terry CH is digging my Mr. Rotter's neighborhood stuff. What?
There you go. Mr. Rotter's neighborhood. He's got a channel. He does. If you guys are into Buicks, man, Mr. Rotter's neighborhood.
Yeah, here coming soon is the super stock is back at you. I finally have everything fabbed up and cleaned and painted and bolted on. And I'm going to get it on the start stand here soon.
Frank, did you know that Jenkins once ran Jungle at York? Wasn't that Irv Beringhouse in Juggles Pro Stock Car?
The Camaro.
Yeah. Nope. Well, tell the story then, Franco.
That's your brother, isn't it? Isn't Franco your brother?
No.
Oh.
Well, Franco's a Nitro brother. Franco goes back to those days. Dallas, won't you be his neighbor?
Sure.
Jenkins got a 3-second lead. And who won, man? Franco, I only got to maybe go to 1 or 2 races at York.
Somebody's asking me, Buck does, it says, Dallas, how much for the 3.8 turbo setup? I don't have a 3.8 turbo setup. I don't know what he's talking about.
Levi's Performance wants to know, Dallas, will there ever be any kind of weight to cubic inch racing in the AHRA?
Yes, there already is, and it has been for 2 years. I brought back modified production class, and it's called Nostalgia Modified, and I geared it towards 1975. So you can't have anything outside of 1975, but there was a few that took on, but what ended up happening is they created some Nostalgia Modified production classes, some groups, and those groups decided to run amongst themselves and not follow up with some actual class racing where it's weight to cubic inch. I had that, so I still have that.
Let's see.
What's he? David O'Barr says, with fuel prices now, would you make a 225 slant run on alcohol?
Me myself, no, but it's a fine thing to do.
Mike Batista, bang that 4-speed Grumpy was the best. To tell you the truth, Grumpy was not the best. At the time, Mr. 4-speed was the best. That was probably what Herb McCandless, and if you go before Herb, that was probably
I would definitely not say Herb McCandless.
Well, he was called Mr. 4-speed, but
he can call himself Godzilla.
Oh, I guess so. But
Ronnie
Sox, and yes, in the Sox and Martin car, Ronnie Sox, the Linko was actually designed to replace Ronnie Sox, and it did.
Ronnie Sox definitely was the guy. Auto 1303, Dallas Tony, any interest in converting something to propane or natural gas?
No.
On my end, no.
No, that kit costs way too much money for just the benefits of having propane or natural gas. What I did find, though, is like in Europe and in Australia, the taxis all ran on, I want to say propane, right? But it's so hard to get those kits here in the States. I mean, you can buy them, they're $2,000.
Dutch Vornick, John Bauman was our neighborhood hero. John I don't know if he's still around. He's a great guy. I had a lot of fun hanging around with him. So he got into a feud with Ray Barton, right? So Ray's shop was only maybe about an hour from there, and the two of them were bouncing back and forth with the SSAA record. Actually, Bauman had it at the time, and the two of them got into this like pissing. I was friends with both of them, you know what I mean? And the two of them got into this kind of pissing match with each other, and I just kind of like backed off and stayed away. But yeah, no, John was a great guy.
So there's a guy, the Screaming Seaman, saying, I want to put a Pontiac 455 into a 60 Mustang that I should hear, but I don't know if it'll fit because of the strut towers. I would have to say it probably won't fit.
No.
Those things barely fit an FE, and the exhaust ports on those face down.
Yeah, no. 455, I don't see that.
If you cut the whole entire strut tower assembly out of it and then put rack and pinion setup in the front, you could probably do it. But then you're starting to get into where it's probably no longer cost effective. You know what would be really cool in like a lightweight car like that? Well, that 68 Mustang was still a lightweight car, right? 67, 68, they were still light. Okay. What would be really cool in something like that, if you were wanting to put a Pontiac motor in there, is that overhead cam 6. Because you'd have all the room in the world for that.
Oh, Franco's talking about the race between Jungle and Jenkins. Jungle left 3 seconds.
Oh, this is with his fuel car against Jenkins
Yeah,
Pro Stocker.
Yeah, Jenkins left. Jungle left 3 seconds later and eased into Jenkins' lane, ran him down, and pulled back into his lane and beat Jenkins. I could see that. Franco says when we got Jungle out of the car, he was laughing. You should have seen his eyes in our rearview mirror. I can see it. Oh my God. Could you imagine that? You whipping along at like 120, 125 miles an hour, come up on the lights.
And here's a fuel car
yeah, you
barreling
look in
down.
the mirror, right? There's this fuel car with the candles lit, like coming right up your ass. Oh, please.
I see the Pontiac 350 and a Fairmont Futura. 455 is the same size externally. Yes, but a Fairmont Futura is a Fox body. It's not a 67 Mustang. They got strut towers that are freaking ridiculously close. Now, granted, in 67, they opened them up. They opened up the engine bay so you could actually get a bigger motor in there. And that's why Ford did that, so they could get the FE in them. But it wasn't that much of a growth. I mean, you're only talking a couple inches on each side.
Franco saying not just a Nitro funny car, it was Jungle.
Yeah. Who was known for his zany antics anyway, right?
It wasn't so much zany. The guy was just real. You know what I'm saying? He was just freaking real.
Well, wasn't he Mr. Half-Track Burnout before anybody even did a half-track burnout?
He was out there having fun.
And then back it up at 70 miles an hour?
He was out there having fun.
He did. He had a lot of fun. Up until 1977. But he's got a hell of a lot of pictures and stories out there just from that short period of time, from like 62 to 77.
Well, let's put it this way. When I got into when I got like heavy involved, right? When I says, this is it. This is what I'm going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So middle to late 80s. Jungle had already been dead for almost 10 years at that point, right? And they was still telling stories about him.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
You're a legend.
He was that much of a legend that he was like still fresh in the minds of everybody who was still, you know what I'm saying?
Cool. Yeah. Well, so Joe K is asking if I've ever dug into the 3800s or even the supercharged 3800. No, I'll do a junkyard video here soon. The closest I've ever done. Okay, so if I have something I want to learn about, I will go to the junkyard and I'll spend an entire day disassembling it in the junkyard, and then walk out paying nothing, right? But I'll learn essentially how it works or what it looks like, or it's a cheap education because you go in there and pay maybe $1 to get in the place and tear something down and figure out how it works. And I've done that to a couple 3800s. The thing that I never got into was all the rocker arms, everything's centered, right? So there's no offset rocker. On the Buick, the earlier engines, the V6s, V8s, all of them, they were all offset rocker, right? On that 3800, everything's in line, meaning that the lifter bores had to move to do that, meaning that you can't use it on something later. So I never really went further past that.
Franco Santonio, I have many stories, but they can't be typed. They must be told. Oh, I'm sure, brother, man. I keep saying we got to get together. You really need to do a YouTube channel.
Or you should just fly him down to Nashville and do a YouTube
We could do that
top
too.
fuel race, collective mind gathering thing. Man, I'm not on it today. I can't think today. I'm
I get like
fragged.
that. It's the heat, man. It's the heat. Small part Al in the house. What's happening, brother man?
And has he recovered yet from Hot Rod Power Tour? He had to have been like lost 47 pounds inside Slanghammer.
I'm sure he's back up and running. David W, you still have a 73 Roadrunner? Yes, I do. Let's see. Lots of greetings for Al. Big Billy Racing, did you ever meet Buddy Ingersoll? I did not, but I was a huge Buddy Ingersoll fan.
I like how he's shaking everything up.
Yeah.
He had, I'm telling you, there's a video on YouTube. Zero should go check this one out, or I think he's the one who put all the neat stuff up, right? There's a video of it's actually an IHRA Pro Stock event where Buddy Ingersoll brings that Regal out and they class it in Pro Stock, in IHRA Pro Stock.
There was one race.
He had everybody literally shitting their pants. Because and here's what it was. It was like, let's say Bob Glidden. He's running at the time probably 760s or 740s. Okay. Buddy's running 760s, but he's got 20 mile an hour on Bob at the top end. And they were like freaking out because if Buddy ever got that thing figured out, he was going to run all over him. And the neat thing was that Buick Grand National was the only thing that you could literally buy that was like anything else at that Pro Stock event. Right? That was it. And like Ford Thunderbird, you couldn't get a big block Ford in it.
Yeah, see, I was a Buddy Ingersoll fan in the 70s. The Pinto.
The Pinto was killer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the doubly modified compact. And a draw-through turbocharged 4-cylinder Pinto, and he was running like bottom tens with this thing, which was in the day that was like.
That's a 2.3 turbo.
Right.
2.3 4-cylinder turbo.
It would be the equivalent of somebody running like a high 7 today, with a setup like that.
There you go. Fab Race Mod Repeat says 67, 68 Mustang shock towers are about 5 inches too close together for Pontiac.
Yeah, I picture the Pontiac V8 and I picture the 68 Mustang, and I'm like,
That's a wide motor.
No, just no.
With the exhaust ports, they're coming out the side. I mean,
not going to happen.
Big Billy Race is saying that was a great video. He's talking about the Buddy Ingersoll. Rumor was that he was driving a WJ, the old WJ Hurst Olds that WJ had for like, was it 1 year or 2 years?
No, that car was built around the V6.
Oh, and I've heard the same thing too, that it was rumored to be the WJ car, just new quarters on it. Then I've also heard that it was completely a whole new shebang. Right?
That's why the car worked. The car had a different power delivery than the regular Pro Stockers.
Right. It was that 6-cylinder turbo.
So everything on that car was unique. The suspension, the engine placement, engine height, it was all specifically for that car.
You know what was so neat about how this was before EFI. Buddy had like a methanol setup on this thing with like a hat that fit over the injector stack, right? And then 2 turbos feeding in the hat. It was a freaking genius setup. But Buddy really had cut his teeth and got the turbocharged stuff figured out with that Pinto, right? Because it was Pinto, and the magic everybody knows today, methanol and turbocharge, right? It's a big thing.
Big Billy's Racing saying Buddy Ingersoll wasn't a Buick body, there was no Bill. Wrong. No, it was a Buick. It was a Regal. I spent a lot of time like around that car, not actually on it, obviously. But I spent a lot of time studying that car, and it was definitely a Regal.
Yeah. So Screaming Seaman's talking about the later 3800. So the later 3800 was Series 2 came out in what, 88, 89? That's when the whole thing changed. That's where it got a balance shaft. They changed all the rockers. It actually went to like a stage 2 V6 Buick head style, right? And that's what Buddy Ingersoll was running on that Regal. So that's why the thing is freaking fantastic. But if you ever look at the stage 2 V6 head, it's virtually an LS head. That's where the LS came from, the big, tall ports. Buddy had the Buick engineered by McLaren? Oh, I don't know about that. I think that was all Buddy.
Fartmaster Flash, Etta Glidden could tune?
I don't know.
I never heard of that.
I think Bob was 99% all of that.
Yeah.
That dude, okay, there's an interview that he did back in the 80s. It's on YouTube. I want to say it was like, I can't remember. It was like a local thing, like Indiana Historical Society or something did a video with him. And he talks about where he would not sleep for an entire week straight working on something. and he bought those big stainless steel tables, like a table you'd see in a restaurant, and he'd build a motor on a stainless steel table. He wouldn't use a stand because it would actually add in stresses within the block, and then when you bolt it all together, it retained that stress. So he built them all on a stainless steel table. He was talking about this whole big thing where he was working on a block that he had literally gutted and restructured the interior of that block on that video, and he hadn't slept in a week. And he said, I do that quite often, and all of a sudden he'll just crash and then wake up a day or two later and then get back to work.
Rider of a pale horse. Don't forget Ohio George Montgomery and his Boss 429 dual turbo in 1869. There were guys running, the Malacott brothers were running twin turbos in 1867 on an early Hemi. And even before that, you had who was the guy? He was actually running one of the Match Bash funny cars with a turbocharged Hemi on alcohol.
Mustang?
No, it was Chrysler.
A Match Bash. Oh, it was an ultra wheelbase car.
Bud Fauble. Yeah, there were a lot of turbos. Turbocharging was actually starting to catch on pretty hot in the middle 1960s.
The LS Motors, a 21st century FE high riser. Changed my mind. Yeah, easily. Go look at Buick V8, especially the small block. That's what that thing is. That's what the 6-cylinder started out as. So it has a lot of characteristics very similar.
Let's see. Mickey Thompson messed with the turbochargers also, 1970. And then it was also messing with compressed air at the time too.
Oh, I remember the compressed air. That was on the blue Mustang or yellow Mustang.
Oh God.
I remember that though, because they had the hood or they had the body open and it had two tanks that looked like scuba tanks. Yeah. And they were right behind where the fuel was at. That's such a freaking cool looking combo. I don't see why the compressed air didn't work.
Art Malone tried compressed air too.
Because that way you could set your boost all the time, right? Like it literally would be linear.
Franco, do you remember any of the compressed air cars?
Oh, Creekside Garage says they never caught who killed him. Sad. No, that's not true. I read his book. Let's see. There was a biography done on him in 2008. It's called The Fast Life and Tragic Death of a Racing Legend. And at the end of that book, his son, Mickey's son, which is Danny Thompson, talks about how they actually caught the guy in 2006, 7, 8, something like that. It was that same guy he was doing the indoor motocross stuff with.
Motocross. David Leonard, remember turbocharged top fuelers? Bro, the most insane vehicle I've ever seen, I think, was the Duraliner. I saw this in Pomona. I guess it was like 1986 or 1987. I think I was there with Caminito. And the Duraliner was a turbocharged. See, most of the turbocharged efforts in funny cars and dragsters ran on alcohol. The Duraliner was actually on nitro. This thing never got past the Christmas tree. It would literally, I mean, they'd spool up, hit it, and it would just throw things out of the car. Like at one point, I don't, to this day, I still don't know how it happened, right? They hit it, and the clutch can, the reverser, and the chunk, the pumpkin, all in one piece went boop right out of the car, just like that. It just threw the drivetrain out of the car at the starting line.
Yeah, so Doug Narden saying Danny Thompson put Challenger 2 in the books at the Salt Flats. I was so happy for him. That was just a couple of years ago. I thought about actually going out there and watching it run. The thing that kind of discouraged me a bit was they took those two. They had, I think, want to say, they had two sock motor Fords in there, right? And then they put two Brad Anderson Hemis in it, and it's like, oh, it doesn't have the same flair now. I mean, there's nothing that sounds like a sock motor wound up. I mean, it sounds so freaking cool.
There was a guy that ran one of the top alcohol dragsters, a black car, beautiful, beautiful car. Rev like crazy, but it was
Never
very,
ran.
very breakage prone.
Yeah, I think a lot of those sock motors were. I just remember, like, I got a bunch of videos from what is it, Beyond Video?
But yeah,
I got a bunch of them from like 1970, 71, where at Pro Stock they were running those sock motors in like the Mavericks,
right.
right? Oh wow, that thing, they sound so awesome. There was a video, one of them I got is like 1970 York Stock and Super Stock Nationals, I think is what it is.
I've seen it.
Gene Turnage dumps the clutch on this thing at like $9,000
I've
in
seen
a
it.
Maverick, and this sucker was literally almost on the deck lid.
Philip Wallace is saying that Romeo Palomides had a twin turbo funny car around 1969. I didn't know. I mean, it's quite possible. I didn't, and that's one I've never heard of.
I wonder where they were getting these turbos from back then. Was that just a diesel application only?
The turbochargers?
Yeah,
back then?
because it would have had to been like a Detroit.
I don't know where they got them from. That's a good question. That's a good question.
There you go. That's the guy that did it too. David Leonard says the day that Mickey Thompson was killed, I turned to my friends and I said, Michael Goodwin did it. He's the guy that actually did it. They put him out in the book. He's the guy that was found guilty. He hired some dudes to do it. Oh, someone was asking about my switch pitch Suburban. No, that's all
Yeah,
right.
where is it?
I haven't drove it out here yet. I'm going to, but it is really happy. That thing is so weird. Did I tell you that? Like driving, it's like a CVT.
Yeah, you were saying.
It is so weird. It kind of just gets at $3,000
Should
and
do
just
it.
like hangs there, and then all of a sudden you can just see the RPMs that start to drop, and the thing's just lumbering down the road.
You should do a whole video on it. That's
I did. I
interesting.
drove it around.
Oh, you did? You had a video on it?
I did a video on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
What's it called?
Pick Your Switch, I think. Or no. I don't remember. It's something like that. Pick Your Switch. That was the last video I did, was that driving that thing around, test driving the switch pitch, because I'd never even ridden in one. I'd only heard stories of them. And I drove it around, and it was just so weird. But I got it wired up to where the check engine light comes on when you're in high stall, right? So the thing, every time you press on the brake, it comes on. And then when you let off the brake, 20 seconds later, it'll go off, right? So it's in high stall all the way up through first and second. And then right when it goes into high, and then all of a sudden the converter light will go off, and you can watch the RPMs just drop, but it just kind of hangs at about $3,000 all the time. It's actually really neat.
Well, check out that video, because that's an interesting thing.
And I want to say it was like Turbo 400 switch pitch test drive. Pick Your Switch, I think is what it was called, something like that.
Fred Gomez is saying the Golden Gator was turbocharged high fuel dragster. No, it's an alcohol dragster. It was actually supercharged and turbocharged. Chase Knight.
Just like a diesel.
Yeah.
455 is 3 miles per gallon. Mike Batista says he does his mile per gallon test
at wide open throttle.
Oh, Big Billy Race is asking, whatever happened to Gene Deputy with the Texas Turbo from the early 90s? You know, that car turned up not too long ago, didn't it?
Did it?
Gene Deputy's car?
I know who he is, but I haven't.
Man, I don't know. All those guys kind of just disappeared about 95.
Yeah, I spent 1 or 2 years in the whole 5-liter Mustang thing, and that was it. It was just. Let's see. Dwayne Rothier Jr. Do you know what a 593 thousandths pilot for a Sioux valve seat grinder would fit? No, I don't.
593 pilot. That's something with a 1/2-inch valve stem.
Zip ties and pipes. What's going on, man? How are you? Hey, from what I understand, you want to get a tour of the States, bro? Are you ready to move down here? Get out of Canadistan? So did I get to pet Danny? Say, yeah, man. We braided each other's hair. It was crazy. We were gonna start dyeing each other's hair, and then the girl said, no, that's too, So we stopped.
Okay, so there's been some questions asking about 455 miles per gallon. I'm assuming it's 455 Buick, right?
Yeah.
Because John Wilbur's China said Vince W 455 mile per gallon is bicycle territory. The Screaming Seaman, what is your gas mileage? Okay, so my Suburban with a 455 and it got 15.7 miles to the gallon. All right, on the open highway. Now, if you're in town, it would get probably like 8 or 9, right? It was single digits for sure, right? But on the open highway, it wasn't bad. This 400, I've never really gotten it ironed out. Matter of fact, in this video, the last thing I tell you in the video before we even go for a drive that this was the most updated carburation jetting setup that I have done on it. I actually used a 403 Oldsmobile carburetor quadrajet jetting set. So you correct jets, the metering rods, the secondary metering rods, right? It's lean. It's not that happy. It doesn't have a lot of beans, but it is a 78 403. So that's kind of how they ran. It was smogged out. But I don't know what it gets. It's actually pretty happy with the switch pitch in there. It gets up going down the road. You can't even really hear the motor. So that to me means that it's pretty much in its happy zone.
Yeah, Peg is saying, Zip Ties is saying, you two together would take over the world. They are the nicest people, man. They were here at the beginning of the tour and at the end of the tour, and we just had the nicest time with them. They are just so freaking awesome.
Yeah. So my Suburban does not have a 455 anymore. It has a 400 Buick. So I was trying to see if it would get 17 miles a gallon with the 400.
Buff's Garage. Is that Buff Del Campo? Buff's Garage?
I don't know. Where is Buff Del Campo?
I don't know, but I see Buff's Garage.
I don't know.
Did I show you, Peg? Did I show you? No, you just hopped in here. He gave me this is going on Bottle Rocket. Danny gave me this awesome vintage Moroso cable drive distributor. Well, I got the distributor too, the TAC.
That's our new Buff. That's what Zero says. Is that Buff enough?
I mean, yeah, it's beauty. It's like the highlight of the car. I can't wait to get it in there. And I'm actually, Austin, who's inside right now, is slamming it together a distributor for me because I don't have anything to run it off of. So he's slamming together a distributor for me. Going right in the car.
He said mint. Isn't that his catchphrase?
It's minty.
Minty.
Mint. Okay, it's the new Buff from Kansas. Okay, so that's not Buff Del Campo. That's a new Buff.
We got Buff enough.
Yes, Buff's doppelganger. Big Belly Racing. I'm telling you, was that a Moroso TAC drive distributor? Well, he gave me a distributor for it, but it's a Mallory Unilate, which I don't want to use. I want to use a dual point. So Austin is whipping me together a dual point to work with this TAC. Zero saying the new Buff has a lot of subs and a new one from him.
Oh, sweet.
Well, I mean, if you got Zero's endorsement, bro, I mean, you got to be good. The Buffs are multiplying.
Oh yeah, there you go. Fab Race Mod repeats saying the thumbnail on my video says not your typical check engine light. That's the one that's
okay.
The high stall.
Maybe one of our guys could put up a link to that video.
Yeah, well, maybe Zero's all over them links, right? Where's Zero? Zero, could you put a link to that Mr. Rotter's neighborhood video with the switch pitch Suburban? Dang, Ari's already on Buff's new channel.
John is saying the biggest winners of the last 2 days in a no-name Nationals 500, Dutch Guy's Garage, Redbeard Racing 710, Punisher Le Mans Garage, Irish Outlaw Garage, and had the most with 24. So, okay, so let's talk about the no-name 500 now. One,
Yeah.
two, yeah.
So the No Name 500 is the race within the race. It was the YouTube, since the No Name Nationals is a YouTube content creator race, if you want to call it that. It's more like I guess it'd be like a trade show, meet and greet, race, car show,
Okay.
burnout contest, all in one. And so the No Name 500 is the guys that actually started out with less than 500 subscribers for a YouTube channel. And they had paid their entry fee for the No Name Nationals without having their 500 subscribers, which is a gamble all in itself, right? Some of them literally started, like Bear Rose Garage, Two Hacks Garage, started after they bought their membership or bought their after they registered for the No Name Nationals, paid for their registration, and then started a YouTube channel. So it's those are the guys that are. It's a race within the race to get to 500. And we literally have a list of them every week. John sends me a list, and it's sponsored by Roadkill Customs. So they actually throw a sponsorship towards that class, right? The No Name 500. But yeah, there's what are we at now, John? If those 4 made it, we're at 25 or 29 channels. 29 channels that made it.
SRP wants to know, what do you win when you get to 500?
You win the opportunity to come and participate at the No Name Nationals. Plus, you're also entered into the No Name 500 class, which has a payout all for itself.
21 people have made it to date. That's impressive.
21, yeah. Okay.
That's impressive.
Screaming Steven saying, when is the No Name National? September 30th and October 1st at Jeffers Motorsports Park in Sikeston, Missouri.
And I just started working on Bottle Rocket today. Yeah.
Now it's getting serious?
Now it's getting serious. Now, yep.
Yeah.
Well, I said as soon as we're done with Sledgehammer, as soon as that's like in the rear view
You're on
mirror,
Bottle Rocket.
I'm on Bottle Rocket. So now I'm on Bottle Rocket.
Well, and this one, do you have any any tricks that you're planning?
I'm pulling another 100 pounds out of that car.
100
I'm
pounds.
pulling another 100 pounds out of that
There
car.
is not a lot of weight left in that car.
I'm getting another 100 pounds out of it. And I'm changing up a couple of things.
Danny Boy, what happens if Big Chief shows up at No Name Nationals? He's got 500 subs. Well, then he's in. It's that simple.
Screaming Seaman UT going to No Name. Yes, I am. I'm racing Casper. We're racing Bottle Rocket against Casper. It's a $4,000 grudge race.
Heads up, first to the finish line wins. One and done.
One and done. No test runs, no nothing. We roll them off the trailer, we pull them to the starting line, and let them rip.
See, there's Bear Rose right there. He's one of our graduates of the No Name 500, one of the winners. A huge shout out to all the No Name 500 guys. You guys are all great, and we're all going to make it. See, and here's what's neat: that race within a race, the No Name 500, all those guys have kind of banded together, right? And they're helping each other create better content for YouTube itself. So you go look at these channels, and you see their first couple of videos. You're like, oh man, it was nauseating watching that first video. Yeah, but by video number 5, they've already got a lot of things figured out, right? They already know, shorten them down, short and sweet, get to the point, show the steps that are necessary. There is so much evolution that's happening in the automotive YouTube community just because of the No Name Nationals, and especially the No Name 500 participants, that I would have to say, if there was a metric for this, that the No Name Nationals would be trending just because of the No Name 500 guys.
Mike Batista is saying, oh man, you guys should have done the best 2 out of 3. That's a lot of dollars for one race. Obviously, so I'm going to call it one and done. And the reason I did that is because he's pulling to the starting line with a few hundred more horsepower than I am, right? So the idea here is that there's going to be no test hits or anything like that. Just roll him off the trailer and go, which means that he's going to have to sort many more horsepower than I'm going to have to. It gives me a chance. That's why I call it that way. 2 out of 3. If he gets his first run as a tune-up run, gets a handle on the car, he will suck my headlights out. on the second run. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's an old street racing thing, one and done, right? So that's how we're gonna run it.
Right. Well, also you said you're not leaving anything on the table, and then I said, how much nitrous you going to hit with it?
Everything,
and
and
you said
whatever,
all of it. Yeah.
Everything it's got.
Yeah. The bottle will be empty at the end
Yeah.
of the track. Odds are stacking up against the bottle rocket. I
Oh,
hope I'm wrong.
absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
that was why he did it.
That's why I called it, because it's the ultimate David versus Goliath situation. Andy and that truck are weapons. So the only way I'm going to have a chance with him, he's going in there with a brand new combination, and I don't know how much test time he's going to get ahead of time, but Sykeston is going to be a new track to him. It's going to be a new environment. So I got a chance. All he has to do is just like spin the tires a couple of times before the tree, and I got a good chance. So
well, and the other thing that like nobody's really considering it. Andy is one, that motor probably makes a couple hundred more horsepower than, and it's what 150 cubic inches more, 200 cubes more. No, it's 427. He said, right?
Yeah, he's got about 100 cubes on
cubic
me,
inches.
and I'm going to estimate about 250 horsepower.
And he's got David Vizard in his corner.
Right. He's got science and knowledge and experience on his side.
And it's Andy, and he's damn good already by himself.
I have a 318 Coronet. So, let's see what happens. Let's see.
Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonball says it would be a better idea to encapsulate Landy's cigar in liquid resin like in the mosquito in Jurassic Park, so generation after generation could appreciate it. Otherwise, it will rot away. There was quite a few of that with cigar smokers back then, right?
Yeah.
Landy and Grumpy and yeah, well, Hook, Line, and Fishing says never underestimate the power of the 318, and especially the 318 huffing a hell of a lot of nitrous oxide, right?
Yeah, I listen. I'm setting the thing up on kill. You know what I mean? I'm going to set it up on kill, and let's see what happens.
You never know. I think it's going to be amazing because that thing, just a small block Dodge runs good because of the cylinder heads. I imagine with the nitrous, it's going to be even happier.
The car makes power for what it is. It makes power, but like I says, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I actually did start working on it today, and I have some ideas that I want to employ. I have some things I want to change. So I got 90 days or so to do it, and I think we get it done in we'll get it done probably by the end of July. The car should be up and running again, and then we'll have enough time to sort it a little bit on the street.
Hey, so don't try the things that I've tried on both bars that I've dealt with. Don't pull the upper control arm bushings out and
Lower
expect
control arm
or
bushing.
lower control arm bushings out. They don't make good passes that way.
But I did get a wheelie out of it.
You did, yeah, you did.
A little tiny wheelie, but I got a wheelie just the same.
Well, and we were all the way at the other end of the track, and you could actually see the wheelie. So that's saying something. That's 8 mile away.
I mean, say what you want about Bottle Rocket, but it's a 318 in a 4-door Coronet, all steel and everything, and she'll wheelie. So now we just got to get it to the other end without any issues.
Screaming Seaman says, I just bought a boat. Should I call it the pull-out method? I don't know. Run that by the wife. You might just want to have 27 Jennies.
Fab Race might repeat, as long as there's light under the front tires, it counts as a wheelie. Yeah, well.
Dizzy Izzy's pumping up Jeffers Motorsports Park.
And that was with the disc brake. That car had the fact when we had it at Sykeston, that car actually had the factory disc brake set up on it, and everything. I switched over to the smaller Jake's. Jake's, was it Jake's? Jake's. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I switched since that time. The whole front end's been rebuilt now. and I switched it over to a much lighter. I shaved about 40 pounds of unsprung weight off the car, so it should actually get up there now. Bill Hines always had a cigar. What a legend he is, man.
Well, Ed Iskandarian always had a cigar.
That's right.
Still does, and he's like 100 years old now. What happened to Uncle Kid's boat? Oh, is that the boat you bought?
Yeah, it's just sitting in his backyard right now. He's busy with work and the kids. I'm busy with all of this crap, and it's just sitting in his backyard at the moment.
John Wilburn saying Bottle Rocket will have both wheels up.
We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens.
Hook, Line, and Fishing says build the bottom end like a tank and gap the rings and spray it to the moon. Tony said his gap is 3.91 inches.
Big gaps. Big gap.
It's just like there is no ring in it. Just gonna spray it. You don't break ring lands if you do that.
Bottle Rocket might break it. Absolutely might.
Let's just go on a limb here. It probably will, because this is a one and done for $4,000, right?
SRP is saying Bottle Rocket will break the axles. It's already done it. I've already broken axles. We've been there, done it, got the T-shirt.
I'm thinking it's going to be something else catastrophic at the top end.
Yeah, yeah. I hope you guys got oil dry. That's all I can say.
And please don't oil down the track. I don't want to be there 2 hours cleaning that up.
Nitrous, Mike Batista saying the nitrous will seal the rings up.
Yes.
I'm actually thinking that the molten aluminum will seal the rings up. Is Bottle Rocket an 8 3/4? Yes, it's an 8 3/4. 456 gear, 8 3/4. I had an 8 1/4 in it, and I destroyed that.
Yeah, put a diaper on it. Just put a diaper on it so you don't. If you do blow it up, it doesn't freaking gack the track all up. You go there with your intentions already masked out, right?
Bottle Rocket doesn't have to drive back to the trailer; it just has to beat Casper to the line. I mean, look, I got to go 659 feet and a couple of inches, and that's what I'm shooting for.
That 8 1/4 or 8 3/4 should need a diaper. No, but the oil pan on Bottle Rocket might need a diaper. I'm assuming it's probably going to have some exit wounds on it if Tony's going to hammer it with everything he's got.
Now, it won't put rods out. It may hurt pistons. It's not going to put rods out.
You think it would push head gaskets out and melt down pistons and burn plugs
You know,
off?
I don't know. I'm going for broke. I'm going for whatever it has, whatever is what it's going to get on that run. If I don't screw up and I can pull second gear without having an issue, then I got a good chance to get into the other end.
But see, and the thing that people aren't thinking of, that's an 833, but fourth gear is overdrive, right?
Well, not anymore. No, that's coming out, and I'm putting a standard 833 in it.
Oh, so now you got 4 gears to roll instead of 3.
Well, I don't think we're going to see fourth gear.
An 8th mile. What gear's in it now?
456.
No, you probably won't.
No. Uh, 318 for the win. I'm going to try it, man. It's going to be fun. Kenny would have been put an automatic in it. I thought about that. I was actually going to do it. I even went so far as started rounding up some 904 parts that I got laying around. And I said, no. The spirit of that car is the 4-speed, and it's going to stay a 4-speed.
But you're going to throw some good parts at the 833, not just stock stuff,
Yes,
right?
yeah. The 833 is getting some good parts.
Are you face plating that? And what do they call it? With a dog or
Yeah, I'm gonna do the synchros on it.
cut the synchros down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fabrice Mark Pete, Tony, you only got to shift twice. You can do it. Listen, I had the IHRA Pure Stock world record with a 5-speed Mustang. I mean, it's like I can shift. you know what I mean? It's like, it's not something that, is foreign to me.
Here's one I think that's going to be pretty funny. Creekside Garage. Somebody doing a live stream for No Name Nationals. I'm going to tell you right now, Creekside Garage, September 30th and October 1st, you probably are going to find more No Name Nationals content on YouTube than anything else on YouTube at that time. We've got 2 T1 lines coming in, and there is guys like, there's going to be live streams, there's going to be videos, there's going to be edited stuff, and it's going to be filmed from about, I don't know, I would have to say, I would go on a limb and say 200 different angles. So you're going to have your choice, your pick of whatever you want to watch and how you want to watch it.
Kenny, with no automatic, you could spray it from the hit to the finish line. Yeah, but it's a 4-speed. I'm sticking with the 4-speed.
What about the head out?
What did you come here for?
To mess with that thing I bought.
You serious? You drove all the way down here to mess with?
Man, go mess with that start stand and get it ready to all.
Oh yeah, you
all
gotta get
out
it ready
here.
to go.
Huh?
The start stand. You have all the
Yeah, that's
stuff.
right, yeah.
Yeah, go get it all ironed out so we can haul it out of here.
Got to get the battery out of the back of Slaghammer.
You got all
His
like, all
battery
the
is
bolts
also
and all
like
that stuff in it. You got everything bolted back together.
It's I can take a look at it. I don't know what needs to come out of it.
I have no idea. I'm just trying to pick it up the way I dropped it off so
Oh, yeah.
I can go home and put stuff on.
I think the only thing that we put on it was that extension for the motor mount.
Okay. Well, we're still live here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Danny Boy saying, sweep the floor.
Yeah. But I can't get in this way.
Let's see. Slickline 45 says tuned to 426 jet boat. It was scary fast.
Ruckworth, cut the furrow and move it back. More is better. Yeah, no, it's not that. It's not that easy with a 4-speed car. Let's see. Big Billy asking, what heads on Bottle Rocket? The most extensively ported closed chamber small block Mopar heads that have ever existed.
Oh, really? You're going all out on this one? Are these 273 heads again?
What's that?
Are these 273 heads again?
Yes, they're the 272 318 heads.
Oh, there's no difference between them?
What's
I
that?
thought 273 was its own small chamber head from like the early years.
Well, there's two versions of it. There's the original 273 head, which is 64, 65, 66.
Uh-huh.
Then 67, they have the 273 318 head. It's got the same size valves, right? But the exhaust port is the best out of all of the small block Mopars. The exhaust port on those heads are the best.
Really?
And I ported the living piss out of them. I poured on the intake side. I ported them. They're about the equivalent of a set of ported like 340 heads. So like, they look like X heads when you look in the ports and everything.
Okay.
There's all kinds of epoxy and everything in there.
No, I did that on my intake.
Yeah.
My super stock intake is like
The
that. I got
JD
epoxy.
welds on with a push rod ground through the push rod tubes.
No, I ground through the freaking runner on one of them. As matter of fact, I didn't grind through the runner. There was a bad dog leg in there, and I took like a 3/8 of material out of there. And then I got in there and like, you know how it's got all the tool marks after you grind all that out, right? So I go in there with the sanding roll and I try to smooth it out and whoop, right to the side of the port. What happens between shifting gears when you spray nitrous? Does it affect anything or everything? Well, generally the nitrous is on a switch on the throttle, right? I don't know how Tony has his set up. Do you get your with a micro switch on the throttle or
No.
is it just a button?
I have a button on the shifter. So my plan is to use the button to pull second gear. So the idea is swap feet, hit the spray, and then when it comes time to shift second, start pulling on the lever and let off the button. When I let off the button, it'll relax the drive line enough to pull me in a second gear, so I don't have to even look at the clutch.
Well, if you're doing
Back
if
on
you're
the
doing
button.
all those tricks to your 833, you should be able to just grab it and yank it into second gear, can't you?
Yeah, but there's a chance that it misses. You still want to try to release
Oh,
still
some of
want
the tension on the
some of
drive.
the tension. So if I let off the button, it should release enough tension on the drive line that it'll spring it right back in a second, and I can get right back on the button.
Or you can just put that button on a clutch pedal and then just spray it. And then as soon as you stab the clutch, it stops spraying.
Yeah, but you see, the problem with that is if the car breaks traction, it's hard for me to gather it up. Whereas if it's on the
just let off the
shifter, just let off the button for an instant, let it gather itself up and then pull back on again.
Yeah, you're right.
One more thing, I'll leave you alone.
What's that?
Do you have a key to Sledgehammer so I can get the battery out?
A key?
Yeah.
The fuck you need a key for? Use a screwdriver.
I thought it was keyed.
Why would there be a key in there?
It's got locks on there.
Oh shit. Yeah, Al. Al? I think I saw Al on here. Al, is there a key to the trunk?
I took our extensions out. I think that was the only thing that was added to your stand, Dallas.
Okay. Do you know where the old stuff was that went on it?
That plugged into the motor mounts.
Yeah, all the pieces and bits and pieces that were on it.
I don't think we ever took anything off of it. I think
Well, you had to have something for your. Do those outriggers that are on there for where your motor mounts?
Yeah,
go?
we just put extensions of square steel.
Oh, on top of what I already had on there?
Yeah. Al actually found that up.
Mine was just made out of cobbled up like junk that was left over.
You just had some square stock that like fit in it and drill a hole in it.
Well,
I don't mean to distract you. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Are you looking to get out of here right now?
No, I can hang around a little bit if you need to.
Because I just want you go over the stand with him, just make sure everything is there and accounted
Well, I
for.
can do that right now if you want.
Yeah, you do that.
Keep them entertained.
Okay, was on the red roll around toolbox there. Okay, the one with the power tools in it, the wheels on top. There's a couple of pieces that were on the stand that I put them there. I don't remember what they were for exactly, but they came with that.
The red toolbox or
Yeah, he knows where it is.
Okay.
He knows where it is.
Power tools.
All right. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go look at that.
Look around right in that area. There were a couple of brackets or bolts or something. I don't remember, but I put them specifically there.
So they
Knowing
didn't get
that
lost?
they go with, yeah.
You mean the one in front of the desk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't haul that over nicely. I'd like to get everybody to get it so I can.
Okay. Let's see. Broken Tool Garage later on. Make sure you hit the like button. Well, yes, the likes help. The likes help. They definitely help the algorithms. Let's see. Garrett is in the trunk. I don't know what the hell Garrett is. Oh, Mopar, I was saying the battery is out of the tow truck and the trunk is locked. Then where is his battery? And how do we get into the trunk? Let's see. Andy Granatelli, Studebaker Salt Flats. I don't know where that comes from. The Screaming Seaman. Oh, you took the battery. Frank Grell, Austin's a good kid. He and the other guys are a trip. They certainly are. I really, really enjoy having them around. Okay. You calling it a night, Andy? Good night, brother man. Eric Runberg, Tony, can you put nitro in a race gas motor to make power? No. Gasoline and nitro do not mix. Oh, okay. More part. I was trying. Hey, Austin! Austin! He's not answering me. Austin, Al was trying to call you. Yeah. Motorhouse 77 Racing. Hi, Tony says hello to Brazil. Brazil representing. What's happening, my South American brother?
Brazil has awesome steakhouses.
They bombed my steakhouse over here.
Bombed it? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Brazilian steakhouse?
Yeah, Rodizio's on 2nd Avenue.
Is gone?
Yeah. Remember last year, year and a half ago or so, they had the guy who blew up the camper
Oh yeah. Oh, you're talking in Nashville.
in Nashville. Yeah, blew up my freaking. That's where I used to go. Rodizio's.
It sucks.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, there's some awesome things that come out of Brazil, like the Brazilian wax. Brazilian steakhouse.
So there was this place called Rodizio's, right? It was a Brazilian steakhouse in Nashville, and we would hit that. It's like all you get the thing, right? You order the full Rodizio, they called it, right? And then you just sit there,
Giant plate of meat,
and
right?
all night long. They just keep bringing you different meat and everything. So me and Ralph, we would go there, right? And like it was crazy. So it was like we went on this meat kick, right?
Right.
Like we were buying tenderloins and we were hitting all of these different all-you-can-eat meat places, right? And tipping them to get even more meat and better meat, right? Like, it was just crazy, right? And like I started having like my chest was locking up. So I'd be laying down and all of a sudden things would go boom, 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 boom. Okay, I gotta stop the beat for a while.
Slow down a bit.
Yeah, so I switched over to a chicken and garlic diet. And all I did was I ate chicken and garlic. You
Oh
know,
wow.
For like a month. Like all the chest pain stopped.
Subsided. No way. If you haven't been to Brazil, I went to Brazil in 2011, I guess. Man, I'm telling you, the Brazilian steakhouses down there, they bring out like trays of meat. It's literally like a whole animal cut up on a giant plate. And there's sausages and freaking cuts and oh, you'll be there all night trying to eat that. And it's good. And the Brazilian women are hot. That's also a big plus. But be careful. Some of the Brazilian women aren't actually women. I learned that when I was in Brazil too. That's a normal thing.
That's not good.
No. Here we are drinking a beer at a Heineken place, and there's this hot chick keeps winking at me, right? And then uncross her legs, and it was like, what in the world? There's
Yeah, bad imagery, man. Bad imagery. Let's see. Hook, line, and fishing. Kopi Luwak coffee poop coffee.
That's the Kopi Luwak. That's the one that those rat things eat or whatever. The rodents eat it.
Oh, the cats.
Or
It's
a cat.
yeah, it's called a civet cat. It's a special type of cat. And it eats the coffee beans and then shits them out.
Yeah, and then you brew it into coffee.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the greatest coffee ever. I just can't see fecal coffee being the greatest ever.
Yeah. Frank Gomez, how many is a Brazilian? Sounds like a lot. I saw that meme. That's like a blonde. Yeah, the civet cat. That's the one. Punisher of Le Mans. Good night, brother man.
Are we at the weird hour? Is that where we crossed into the weird
We're,
hour?
we're
now?
past the weird. We're in the wind up stage now.
What did they used to call this in oh man, there were some great shows, like you had Twilight Zone and then what was the other one? Outer Limits.
Yeah.
That when you get to the end of the Outer Limits show is when the announcer would come back on, and this is how Frank ended up dying, you know, and that's the stage that we're at now. We have 12 minutes left. We've gone from the weird hour to the narration point.
The epilogue.
The epilogue. There you go. But it's still like the best out of all those. Did you ever used to watch those shows?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to tell them they would
The
terrify
freaking
me.
one with Burgess Meredith in the books and he's reading with the glasses. That was
Oh,
the best
Twilight Zone?
ending. Yeah, that was the freaking greatest. Like, No, and that's how the show ended. Right, broke his glasses. I can finally read in peace.
Combat with Vic Morrow. I remember that.
The one from the 90s was pretty good too. Huh? I don't think I saw any of those.
Josh H. Good night, all. Gonna unsubscribe real quick and go to bed. Good night, man. All right. So, what do we have to?
Reports, why didn't he just go to the eye doctor shop? Because everyone was dead. There was a nuclear holocaust, and he was the only guy alive, and he could actually read all the books. There was nothing like that.
To serve man, it's a cookbook. Screaming Steven YouTube. I like the Twilight Zone in living color. Oh, I remember that show. Yeah.
I used to like that one in the 90s.
Franco saying my favorite Twilight Zone episode was Willoughby. Which one was that? That's the town, Willoughby, right? But I don't remember. Yeah, but what was the thing with Will? Right, next up Willoughby. But what was the? I remember.
The train.
Yeah, I know. But what was the thing about Willoughby that made he jumps off and dies? Dickie Farley says can't go wrong with Married with Children. One of my favorite shows of all time. That was awesome.
That's how I learned to be sarcastic. Was that show? That show was like 100% sarcasm. Joe Brennan says that I like the dystopian episode where everyone gets plastic surgery to look like everyone else. And isn't that like how society is today?
Eric Rundberg. Tony, explain in your words how they start and run nitro in engine type. I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by that, bro.
They start and run nitro. Well, first you spin the motor over like really fast, and then with squirting some fuel in there. Well, actually alcohol.
Well, I used to use gasoline.
Did you use gasoline?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you use something not nitro to get it started, and then you flick the mag switch. Once the engine's spinning over and it has good oil pressure, you flick the mag switch, and that's when it lights off.
Well, even when we had the mag switch, I used to use still the ground wire.
You did?
Yeah.
You would pull the ground wire off?
Yeah.
To start it?
You ground the mag.
Right. So it doesn't fire.
Spin the motor, right?
And then pull the ground wire off?
Yeah, you give it a squirt of gasoline, you open the throttle, you give it a squirt of gasoline, you got to point the stream of gas at the back of the injector.
Right.
Okay. Then you close the throttle, spin the motor over on a starter, and when it reaches full RPM, it takes like a second, right? If it reaches full RPM, you point at your wire puller, they unground the mags and the thing lights.
Oh, I always had to do with the driver actually flick the switch. We would spin it over until you see oil pressure start to come up on the gauge. It would only take like a second, it wouldn't take long at all. And then he would give me a thumbs up when it's got oil pressure, and then I'd point back at him and he would flick the switch.
Who was this?
The guy named George Zaman. We never ran nitro. We ran alcohol.
Oh, right? Okay.
But in Australia, I crewed for him for 2.5 years. But I had to learn it all myself because I'd seen it done on a million videos, but I'd never crewed for anybody with a dragster. And then when I started crewing for him, he blew the motor up the very first weekend I was there, right? And so all the crew guys, it's like, oh, well, George is done, and he left. And so it was left to me and George to build a whole nother motor and then get the car to the track, and it was just me and him. And so what was cool was we were the only guys that show up in Australia and Sydney with an open trailer. It had a single axle open trailer, right? And we would have like sausages and eggs in the morning that we would cook out on a griddle, electric griddle. And everybody else was like drooling as we're cooking these sausages and stuff. Like, why didn't you bring an electric griddle? But I'll tell you what, I met one of the coolest Australian drag racers down there, a guy named Benny Gatt. You ever heard of that guy? Okay. He would be like equivalent to like Don Garlitz in Australia. Right?
Okay.
But he was the door slammer guy. And they ran this group called Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
And he had a car called Gonzo 2. It was one of those XB Falcons
Okay.
with the big long nose, right? So that's why they called it Gonzo. But he had a Fontana Cleveland motor in there, right? With like this huge, like 10 or 1271 blower on it. I mean, it was ginormous. This thing ran. I mean, it ran good, but it was down to the sevens or because we ran like in the same kind of class, like supercharged outlaw is what they called it. And we ran it with that dragster. And it was just a small block with a like 871. And they would run the number, but Benny Gatt was doing it with like a 357 cubic inch Cleveland with a whole bunch of boost going to it in a car that probably weighed what 1,000 pounds more than ours, right? Because it was a dragster. Our dragster weighed 1,600 pounds at Glide in it. I'm certain that Falcon had to be 2,800 pounds, you know, so it was making some steam.
Oh.
But yeah, that dude used to hang out. He would pit next to us. He would come looking for us to pit next to us.
So SRP says they fire up on fuel and switch to nitro. That's on the warm up. On a warm up, they warm them on alcohol, right? It's just to get heat in the motor from when it's ice cold.
You'll hear it. You'll hear the transition.
Right. Then once the motor, actually, when I never even bother with the alcohol. What I would do is I'd fill up. You see those squirt bottles that I use for everything? So what I would do is I'd fill the squirt bottle with gasoline, right? Franco's more than familiar with this, right? What I would do is fill the squirt bottle with gasoline, fire the motor on the gas, and run it until this bottle was empty. When the bottle was empty,
roll the switch.
Reach down, turn on a nitro. But that's only for the warm up. Then once the motor is warm, now your next step, you're going to tow it around to start it actually on the starting line. In that case, you use the squirt bottle. You just give it a squirt in the injector, so the engine got something easy to light on, and then it automatically is running on fuel, running on nitro.
Yeah, you can actually hear them because they used to do where you fire them up on alcohol or gasoline. They'd light off really easy.
Yeah.
And then the motor would be high racing. You would race up like, say, to, I don't know, 1,500, 3,000 RPM. And then all of a sudden, it would slow down and it would start to pop from the headers, right? And then that's when it started going to the nitro. And that's when you can tell.
That was always my favorite moment, right? Just you get into the end of the gas, it's almost done. Like, okay, she's warm enough now. You reach down, pull up that lever, and I mean, that's it. You know, it's just like that. That's nirvana, man. That's internal combustion nirvana. George Turnstall says the only thing I don't know is where Jimmy Hoffa is buried.
How does he know that you don't know?
Why do you think I don't know?
He was in New York when Jimmy Hoffa disappeared. In Jersey, right? That's driving distance. How do you know him and Jimmy Hoffa were not hanging out at the 50-yard line at the New York Jets Stadium?
I think your father said, I agree, Tony, something like that would have me smiling for days. That was my most favorite thing in the world, right? I probably still, that's why I stay away from all this stuff. I don't go anywhere near it because it's a sickness. Once you get it in you, it's like, you know what I mean? You just don't stop. So but that was literally my favorite thing in the world was just when you pull that lever up and she just starts cackling. That's it.
I used to have nitro RC cars, and those things burn. I don't know what it is. Probably 10%.
Yeah, 8 or 10%.
And you'd be tuning on that little RC car, and then somebody would say, "Hey, man, is it everything?" And you'd look up at him. You have snot running down your nose, and the eyes is watering like mad. Oh man, you're getting her tuned in. But you had to get them just right, or they wouldn't run.
Franco says Jungle used to file a V-shaped notch in the barrel valve, so it was really fat at idle. No, actually, Franco, that V-shaped notch in the Enderley K valve, that's how they come. And so if you're running a K valve on alcohol, you run it through that V-shaped notch. Okay. If you run it on nitro, you got to open up. So the V-shaped notch is actually about, I'm going to say, a 32nd of an inch or thereabouts between the bottom of the flat, right? Okay, so picture you look at in the inlet line for a K valve. So you look in the inlet line and you see the V notch, and you'll see light. You'll see a gap underneath that whole assembly and the floor of the K valve, and that's where you start with. Obviously, okay, you could do it with a leak tester, but I always set them up by eye. But yeah, that V-shaped notch is something that's there anyway. I used to call it the fang, the V-shaped notch, the fang.
What is the longevity life in an alcohol type engine? Oh, they run for quite a while. Most of them guys that run, like, say, top alcohol class, don't they run generally one season on the same motor?
They're hard on connecting rods.
They rev them up though to the moon.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
like a fuel car.
No. Well, okay. On an alcohol cars stretch the rods, and nitro cars shrink the rods. Yeah, frankly, they're hard on valve springs. And nitro motors aren't hard on valve springs.
But they don't turn all that hard, do they?
7,800 to 7,800, 8,000 RPM for the lights.
What's funny though is, like, you ever look at a nitro rod compared to any other rod, and the nitro rod is like twice as beefy. It's like literally huge. Oh yeah.
No, they use the same alcohol cars and nitro cars use the same basic rod.
Aluminum, like a Bill Miller Engineering type aluminum rod, right?
Yeah.
I thought they were super duper beefy. Down at the bottom end, the taper was even wider.
No, they were interchangeable. Because I used to buy rods from alcohol guys and use them in the nitro. Yeah, because alcohol
they're already
guys
stretched.
the rods out, right? Yeah. They're stretched.
So you just shove them down.
Yeah, so we just throw them in a nitro motor, and you can count on them for 4 or 5 runs.
Twice as long.
Yeah. Actually, I used to buy Wayne Selco's rods.
Hey, so that's 2 hours tonight, and man, did that fly by.
Manzo was spending $20,000 a season on springs. Yeah, I can imagine.
Jeez. But yeah, that was 2 hours right there, Tony.
That was 2 hours. Oh my God, we're over 2 hours. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we need to stop.
Yeah. Well, go to Teespring, buy some of Tony's stuff.
And go to AHRA.
Online,
AHRA.
Buy some stuff. My email may have been hacked and destroyed, but I'll still get your stuff out.
It's very easy to spell. AHRA.
Yeah, it only has 3 letters in it, and 2 of them are the same.
Yeah. So yeah, very easy to remember. So and they join the AHRA.
They can join the AHRA. Matter of fact, that's how we do events like the No Name Nationals.
Have you guys not joined the AHRA yet? Is there anybody on this live right now that is not an AHRA member? Because I can't fathom that. I can't imagine anybody would not want to be an.
But so go to AHRA. You can join it or buy some merch, and then. Remember, No Name Nationals is coming up September 30th, October 1st. You can be a No Name 500 contender if you wanted, or if you already got 500, just go ahead and register and show up with whatever you got automotive.
Are there any No Name National lives or anything coming up?
It will be in 2 weeks. So
2 weeks?
Yeah, okay. We just did one on Friday. John and I did, and I don't think I know of anything that's coming up besides the next one that's just John and I to give an update on No Name Nationals and where we stand on stuff. So this week or this next week and a half, I should have internet at Jefferson Motorsports Park. So fiber optic.
All right. So Dwayne Rothier Jr. says he didn't realize he could. Yes, AHRA.com.
Oh, AHRA, yeah, online.
Online.com. All right. So that's it, guys. All right. Everybody contributed to Super Chat. Thank you so much. Keeps the wheels turning. Everybody contributed just with conversation and your presence. Thank you for being the most awesome automotive community in all of YouTube. Period. The end. There's nobody like you guys. Nobody. I watch these on the lives. I'm like, come on. This is not a crowd. We got the crowd, right? They got bigger crowds. We got the quality right here. You guys are freaking awesome. Our mods, Ari, John, Fubar, Zero.
The greatest mods out there.
higher forms of life
Yes.
is what we're dealing with here. The next phase of human evolution,
What-
represented by our
What
minds.
did the Nazis call it when they had the perfect
The master race.
the master
Yeah,
race
no, yeah,
of
that's not-
moderators? Yes.
It's all that's going out there, right? But yeah, no. And that's it. We're out of here. I see you guys on Sunday night for our regular Sunday Night Live. And Mr. Rotter's Neighborhood, go over there and subscribe to Mr. Rotter's
Yeah,
Neighborhood
Check
and
it out.
absorb his knowledge and stuff that he does. It's all Buick, lots of Buick stuff.
All Buick, pretty much
Yeah.
at this point.
You know, subscribe to all of his rhetoric and propaganda. And
Rhetoric and propaganda.
I am out of here, guys. I gotta go home. All right, guys. Good night, all.